Becoming Caitlin Clark, the unknown origin story of a modern basketball superstar. This excerpt from Becoming Caitlin Clark, the unknown origin story of a modern basketball superstar by Howard Megdal is reprinted with the permission of Triumph Books. For more information and to order a copy, please visit Triumph Books or Amazon. Introduction. When it was over, the final moments of Caitlin Clark's 2024 WNBA season, the most impactful rookie campaign anyone could ever remember, in ways both measurable by the present and exciting for the future, Caitlin Clark left the Indiana Fever's visiting locker room at Mohegan Sun Arena, where Indiana had just been eliminated from the WNBA playoffs by Alyssa Thomas and the home team, and walked confidently through the industrial white brick corridor leading to the post-game press conference with assembled media. Clark sat at a podium, as she had so many times before, and reflected on all she had done. She did so not in a dedicated media room. The WNBA, unlike its older, more established brother league, the NBA, often plays in arenas without that accoutrement, one of the many ways the league and really, women's basketball itself has been forced to right-size in real time during Caitlin Clark's rise. The game itself, of course, was a sellout, customary and expected now. She'd maxed out Mohegan Sun each of the 4 times she played there, 8,910 fans. She'd sold out all but 4 of her home dates back in Indiana at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and even her 4 games which fell just shy of a sellout exceeded 15,000 fans apiece. To put that in perspective, her smallest crowd of the 2024 season, May 30th against the Seattle Storm, drew 15,022 fans. It was also larger than any crowd who went to see the Indiana Fever prior to Clark's arrival since September 18, 2016, when all-time great Tamika Catchings played in her final regular season game for Indiana with playoff seeding on the line. So much time, energy, and angst in 2024 revolved around debating precisely why Caitlin Clark reverberated within American culture, elevating the sport of women's basketball, like nothing that had come before her. Easy, simple answers focused on elements of her singularity. Resentment from many who have spent lifetimes working to build the sport, only to be cut out of a present-centric view of it, also spilled into view. But these polls do not represent how the overwhelming majority of figures within the game, both trailblazers and the current and future stars who will lead us into the next generations who get to build on Clark's rise, experience the past and present or view what's ahead. There is a symbiotic relationship within necessary building that took place over the previous century, creating the conditions for Clark's supernova emergence onto the world stage. And just as important, Clark herself, while a product of these efforts, found everywhere but so often born in Iowa, rose to the challenge of taking the baton just as women's basketball's perfect storm formed around her career. There is no Caitlin Clark without women pioneers playing basketball as soon as the game itself was created by James A. Naismith in the 1890s. There is no Caitlin Clark without Iowa, unlike many other states early in the 20th century, moving to protect the game itself for women from those who would destroy opportunities for women in the name of protecting them. There is no Caitlin Clark without a generation of Iowa girls playing the game in the first 2 decades of the 20th century, excelling while reveling in the support of their communities. There is no Caitlin Clark without the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union making the brave decision to protect varsity basketball. Just as significant, there is no Caitlin Clark without that game's rules themselves, the 6-on-6 game which has come to shape the modern offense and prizes the skills that separate Clark from even the greatest who came before her, not to mention the critical voices who molded her into the player she is. There is no Caitlin Clark without the 1962 Van Horn Hornets, who redefined success on the court, paving the way for a faster-paced, perimeter-oriented game. There is no Caitlin Clark without Van Horn itself, which undertook to show Iowa, in a way that built on decades of elevating girls who succeeded in women and presaged the mania to come, how to properly fade a women's basketball breakthrough. There is no Caitlin Clark without Molly Bolin, whose rise came through the Iowa girls system which left no small-town star without a chance to prove her greatness, whose star power was limitless as her shooting range, but whose efforts to build the WNBA pathway Clark and those who follow can take as a given led to incredible professional and personal costs. There is no Caitlin Clark without Lark Birdsong planting a stake in the ground for the University of Iowa's women's basketball program, and Christine Grant funding it at a level equal to other women's sports, itself a battleground. There is no Caitlin Clark without C. Vivian Stringer, whose vision of a sold-out Carver Hawkeye Arena to support an Iowa team filled with stars from around the country created the very canvas Clark drew on, or Jolette Law, imported from South Carolina to run Stringer's team as its point guard and engine, now shaping the roster of Dawn Staley's Gamecocks back in her home state, one of the endless Iowa diaspora defining the women's game today. There is no Caitlin Clark without the visionary basketball minds and supporters of women, Lisa Blutter and Jan Jensen, themselves products of the 6-on-6 game, taking the twin pillars of elite post play and perimeter magic and molding an offense-first attack that draws eyeballs in the millions. The excitement as overwhelming as when the game itself thrilled packed gymnasiums all over small towns in Iowa. Jensen's grandmother, Dorcas Anderson, helped create that excitement over a century ago, just as Jensen is building on what Clark herself created as the leader of the Hawkeye program. None of what Caitlin Clark, a preternatural talent at not only the game of basketball itself but at serving as a public avatar for the hopes, dreams, love and hate of a passionate group of fans living through tumultuous American times, all as she only recently exited her teenage years, would be possible without Clark herself. And none of it happens without the elements of every single predecessor you'll meet in this book, on and off the court, for over a century preceding Clark's arrival on the scene. Every single one of these trailblazers, including Clark herself, have one thing in common, for all the disparate ways they altered the course of women's basketball for, and often with, one another. Their love of the game is only fully understood within the larger context of what it means to engage in the work, the joy, the devastation of loss and elation of victories large and small with the people they love. It is the given for boys and men, always has been. Turning women's basketball into that given, for the fully realized life that comes with such progress, is what resonates most deeply, with Caitlin Clark, with all who helped produce her, and with the countless girls and women who will benefit from her ascension. That is what was on Caitlin Clark's mind, what was found inscribed on her heart, when she was asked what her first professional season meant to her on the night it came to an end, workers noisily preparing the arena for another event, gamblers by the hundreds pulling on slot machines and pushing their chips forward in the casino overhead. What mattered most to the woman at the center of a movement that so many had worked for, and so many others had breathlessly predicted would never arrive? I feel like there's been so many amazing moments, but it's the moments that none of you see that I enjoy the most, Clark said, and she visibly relaxed as she said it. It's not the basketball, it's the people that I get to spend it with. Whether it's my family, whether it's my teammates, that's what's been most special for myself. And I feel like those people are the people that know me best. Those are the people that I really care about. So at the end of the day, basketball is basketball, I think it is what it is, and the people around me are what allow me to be really good at it, allow me to have a lot of fun, allow me to be myself. There's been a lot of great moments, making the playoffs, getting drafted, making the national championship game, that's all really cool, but at the end of the day, it's the people and the relationships and the memories outside of that, and if it's not that for you as a professional athlete, I feel like you're doing it wrong. Clark's view of why women's basketball matters was echoed by so many I spoke with for this book. The chance to play the game of basketball to the level and limit of your talent is a path that is still sought by women throughout the country, for all the gains we've seen, but the earliest and fullest manifestations of it came in Iowa, and set a pattern for women's basketball we are now seeing replicated at a worldwide scale. Playing basketball and being fully celebrated for it opens the world for women in ways that extend into every corner of professional life. So it was for Lillian Paula Hausler Randall, a remarkable Renaissance woman, who spent decades as a biochemist in California, before her second career as a sculptor landed her in Who's Who in American Art. She also, and not incidentally, starred decades earlier, as the center for the Alden High School girls basketball team, located in Alden, Iowa, just outside of Iowa Falls. That's not to say earning the support of her family to join the team was easy. To even attend high school, Lillian needed to earn money to help support her family, which she did, 1 cent at a time, taking portraits with her Brownie camera, first of friends, then of other residents as her reputation grew, and developing them herself using the instructions she found in a Sears and Roebuck catalog. The town of Alden, population 699 in the 1910 U.S. Census, contained a high percentage of college-trained citizens who cheered us in our one girl's athletic pursuit, basketball, she recalled. 60 years later, she met up with her high school coach, Martha Granzo Roberson. By then, in 1974, Lillian was 78, Martha 84. But the two spoke in their annual visit, in Lillian's words, of the togetherness basketball brought with it. How the practice sessions as well as the games built us up physically and psychologically. We had never heard of penetrating our opponents, of getting credit for rebounds, or containing a threatening basket shooter. We just played, as hard as we could. And loved every minute of it. None of it came easily. But basketball called to Lillian the way it has to so many women throughout the history of the game. The constant is the lure of the sport. The variable is the opportunities to play it, how often, and at what level. As soon as I felt at ease in my new environment, I became keenly aware of something I had never known of before, basketball. For girls, Lillian remembered. Not only did I need to make time for my family chores, for Latin studies, algebra, et al., somehow, someway, I had to try out for basketball. She devised a scheme to overcome the objections of her father, a minister who objected to women undertaking any endeavor in bloomers, which he considered men's attire. By trying out, making the team, and winning the first game, all in secret, Lillian believed she could engender sufficient parental pride to nullify all objections. She was correct, and soon after, the 1914 Alden High School girls basketball team, with uniforms each girl made herself out of 7.5 yards of wide black serge, the school having only enough funding for the team's basketball, playing games on dirt courts, sometimes muddy, hair tied up with red bandanas, won the Hardin County Championship. Yet all those years later, thinking back to the pursuit which set her on a course of success in science and art alike, this is what Lillian remembered most fondly about her basketball years. We had team outings which I have never forgotten. In winter there were sleigh rides, the steaming breath of horses puffing clouds along the way. Their mainies were often frosty and icicles grew on their ringbits. We thrilled to the rhythmic jingle of sleigh bells and sang mostly Stephen Foster songs as we nestled in the protective straw. We tumbled out, usually at the home of some team member who lived on a farm. There we found a great isinglass stove, red-hot with hard coal burning and a cook stove ready with coffee and cakes. In the meantime, we toasted marshmallows and hot dogs over an open fire and sang and shouted for the sheer joy of youth. Not a game-winning basket, nor holding a trophy aloft, that is not what connected Lillian to the game. And 110 years later, Caitlin Clark, possessor of many gifts, though not the benefit of age as she considered a similar question to the one Lillian answered late in her life, understood this at the age of 22, even in the aftermath of the ultimate competitor's loss which ended her rookie season. Championships are great, and hopefully we have a few of those, Clark said, the small smile and implicit promise that, in her mind, there's no hopefully about it. But you want to have really good relationships with people at the end of the day. So feel like it's all of that, and you can't put your finger on just one thing, because there's so many moments. Here's the story of how Lillian, Dorcas, Molly, Vivian, Jolette, Lisa, and Jan all built the opportunity for Caitlin to wrap her arms around the life that she is fully embracing, and just what it means for everyone who comes next. That when Clark met the moment, she maximized